Hello everyone, this is Jim Lucy, Editor-in-Chief for Electrical Wholesaling and Electrical Marketing, with episode number 110 of today's Electrical Economy podcast series sponsored by Champion Fiberglass. Champion began producing epoxy fiberglass conduit and fittings in 1988, and in 1989 developed the first conduit from epoxy resins that had flame resistance and low smoke characteristics. This met the most stringent codes and specifications. Today's episodes will cover 2024's biggest news stories, and we'll take a look at our picks for the 2025's biggest growth opportunities and trends to watch. As usual, we'll also be looking at some key weekly data to see which way the economy is headed, and we'll be checking in on initial unemployment claims at the state level, rail freight car traffic, the Baker Hughes rig count, oil prices, and copper prices. And our thanks again to the folks from Champion Fiberglass for sponsoring this podcast series for more than 100 episodes over the past 4 years. For the week ending December the 7th, the advanced figure for seasonally adjusted initial unemployment claims was 242,000. That is an increase of 17,000 from the previous week's revised level. The 4-week moving average for unemployment claims was 224,250, and that is an increase of 5,750 from the previous week's revised average. The U.S. unemployment rate for November is 4.1%. Something appears to be going on with unemployment claims at the state level, as they are increasing pretty dramatically. In the data through December the 7th, only 3 states showed declines. North Dakota showed 680 fewer claims. Delaware was down 170 claims, and New Hampshire was down just 2 claims. As you'll see on our next slide, we had a huge number of states that were up over 1,000 claims. I use that 1,000 mark as showing some pretty dramatic movement. Let's take a look at these claims increases. I really have not seen such high state level totals. 25 states had increases of at least 1,000 more unemployment claims. This is notable as we normally only see a handful of states with increases over 1,000 claims. In our last podcast, we mentioned that 11 markets had increases in claims of at least 1,000. I remember thinking it was high at that time. But if you look at the most recent claims for the week ending December the 6th, in California, claims are up 14,827. Texas claims up 9,480. New York up 9,156. Illinois claims up 7,512. Georgia saw claims increase 5,848. Massachusetts up 5,191. Pennsylvania up 4,617. Minnesota up 3,584. Ohio up 3,072. And New Jersey up 2,765. These are only the top 10 states. As I mentioned, there's 25 states up over 1,000. We'll be looking at this closely, and I'm going to see if there's been any trends at the year end to see this type of increases, and we'll let you know about that in the next podcast. For the week ending December the 7th, total U.S. weekly rail traffic was 520,894 carloads and intermodal units, and that's up 4.4% compared with the same week last year. For the first 49 weeks of 2024, total combined U.S. rail traffic was 23,738,808 carloads and intermodal units. That's an increase of 3.3% compared to last year. And that 3.3 figure is running pretty consistently with what we have seen over the past year. So overall, it's been steady, if not, I wouldn't say spectacular increases, but steady increases year over year during 2024. Individual freight levels reflect this positive momentum in freight traffic. As has been the case in the past, petroleum and petroleum products was up the most in the weekly data, and in this report was up 10.1%. Intermodal units are also at a strong increase at 9.1% compared to this time last year. Intermodal units are the freight containers used on ships, rails, and trucks. We also saw healthy increases in grain with 8.8% increase. On the flip side, coal, which has been the case for as long as I've been tracking this data, coal down again, down 14%. Non-metallic minerals down 6.5%. If you track the oil market, you're probably familiar with the Baker Hughes rig count. This tracks the number of oil and gas rigs that are operating in the United States. This data is available by state, by basin, and nationally at www.rigcount.bakerhughes.com. This data is also available for Canada and as well as offshore drilling. This slide gives you an idea of the largest oil and gas deposits. It really gives you a good sense of just how many of the large oil players are in Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma, and how big an area the Marcellus gas region covers in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and parts of West Virginia. As you can see on the left, the largest of the basins for the United States is the Permian Basin, and that goes for primarily in Texas, but does spread to a pretty healthy part of New Mexico. As in our last podcast, the Baker Hughes rig count was very quiet. U.S. oil rigs are showing no increase in the most recent data, and gas rigs just increased by one. For the year, U.S. oil and gas rigs are down 34 rigs for a 5.5% decline year to date compared to last year. Oil rigs are doing a little bit better, but there's a 3.8% this time compared to last year, while gas rigs are down 13.4%. On the state level, New Mexico was up 2 rigs and is up 4% year over year. In the most recent data, Texas was down 2 rigs, a 7.8% year over year decline. The country's largest basin, the Permian in Texas and Mexico, showed no change for the most recent data and is down 1.9% year over year. Current price of West Texas Intermediate crude oil, or WTI, as of December 16th is $70.96 per barrel. WTI oil prices remain firmly over $70 per barrel. That's comfortably over the $60 per barrel that's generally considered to be the break-even point for drillers. Economists like to call copper pricing Dr. Copper because it's the leading economic indicator for future activity since copper is used in so many businesses. The construction industry is among the leading markets for copper because of its use in wiring cable and copper plumbing pipe. The price for copper as of December 16th is $4.20 per pound. It's been quite a year for copper. While the price on Monday, December 16th is up 5.5% year to date, which is a reasonably healthy increase, its high for the year back in May when it briefly topped $5 per pound was up 28.1% year to date. Since this will be our final podcast for 2024, I thought it would be a good time to review some of the biggest news trends in the past year and look toward 2025 and what we may see as some of the more powerful trends next year that will shape the market. I did post this past week an in-depth report on these topics on ewweb.com, but we'll hit the highlights of some of these changes and news briefs in this podcast. We picked for our biggest news story of the year, the merger between affiliate distributors and iMark. It creates a mammoth marketing force of 700 independent distributors with $43 billion in combined sales. AD and iMark leaders are working together in the new AD Independent Electrical Supply Division. Both AD and iMark have long and proud histories as marketing groups that work towards serving the best interest of their distributor and manufacturer members. This merger will bring together distributor members more purchasing clout to compete on pricing with the national chains and give them additional exposure to best practices and new networking opportunities. Our second largest news story is a pretty broad one, and that's the march of distributor merger and acquisitions as continuing to consolidate the electrical wholesaling market. We've heard in different markets, and I guess in the financial industry, that merger and acquisition activity are down. They're hoping that it'll perk up with the new administration coming in. But we certainly saw no decline in acquisition activity during 2024. Let's look at a couple of the major acquisitions. During 2024, no less than 20 distributors of electrical supplies were acquired, and at least 11 of these distributors are on Electrical Wholesaling's Top 100 listing. The 5 largest distributors in the United States and Canada, Wesco, Sonepar, Graybar, Rexel, and Consolidated Electrical Distributors, or CED, were among the most active acquirers. Sonepar led the pack with 7 acquisitions. Its largest purchase in 2024 was Summit Electric Supply. That was 23 locations throughout New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, and Louisiana. Some of the other top 100 electrical distributors that were acquired were Dominion Electric Supply, acquired by Border States, Parish Hair Electrical Supply, acquired by CED, Electrical Supplies Inc., acquired by Merrill Electrical Supply and Rexel, and Blazer Electric Supply, acquired by Graybar. Sonepar, which I mentioned had purchased the most top 100 distributors, also purchased Echo Electric Supply in Council Bluffs, Iowa, Madison Electric in Warren, Michigan, Standard Electric Supply in Saginaw, Michigan, and Electric Supply Center in Burlington, Massachusetts. Every one of these acquisitions is of a really major regional distributor. It's interesting to see how they go forward with them. And while it is important to track all of this acquisition activity of large and small full-line distributors, in many ways I find it just as interesting to learn about the acquisitions when distributors buy companies that are outside but adjacent to the electrical market. For example, Rexel over the past year purchased Tally, a large voice data video distributor, and Wesco built on its positioning servicing the data center market with its acquisition of Ascent and Entrocm, which offered project management and software services to data centers. Wesco also bought another large data center player in 2023 with its purchase of Rahi Systems, and that's in Fremont, California. That provides product, service, and solutions for data centers. I also found the acquisition by Austin, Texas-based Facility Solutions Group, or FSG, of Enesco, Greenleaf and Energy Systems, and Oxford Connecticut. It's interesting because FSD is a hybrid distributor. It functions both as a distributor of lighting and electrical products and also as an ESCO. It has its own active contracting business division, and it will add Greenleaf to this business unit. I'm also fascinated by all the changes in the lighting market, and probably one of the biggest examples of the changes here is the news that NEMRA integrated the American Association of Independent Lighting Agencies into its lighting division. The lighting business is going through a huge amount of changes these days with all the commoditization of LEDs and all the technological advances and acquisitions in the market. We've also seen some changes on the trade show front where Light Fair, which for many, many years was the largest lighting show of them all, and there's some years you could get up to 20,000 people. It's gone to an every other year type of sequence, and a smaller show, very targeted but very, very popular. Advance has gotten even more popular. All these changes are swirling around independent reps, and then NEMRA has launched a new lighting division to give them a louder voice. The new division incorporates the AAILA reps, and leading this new NEMRA lighting division is Jeff Bristol, who most recently served as Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Max Light. This move means a lot to NEMRA and its rep and manufacturer members. Lighting is a big part of the electrical industry's core product portfolio, and by some estimates can account for up to 20% or much more of the typical distributor sales. NEMRA's expansion into lighting is sure to help lighting reps and manufacturing distributors collaborate more effectively. There was some big news also at NAD with the appointment of Wes Smith from Mayor Electric Supply to lead. We believe Wes brings a steady hand to guide the association through a new era. Over the past 116 years, the National Association of Electrical Distributors has provided thousands of distributors, manufacturers, and reps with the educational, networking, and new business opportunities to build their careers in the electrical market. While merger and acquisitions have been a fact of life in the electrical market for decades, the pace of M&As has accelerated in recent years, and dozens of NAD distributors and members were purchased by regional and national chains. NAD needed a new leader who could adapt to the new realities of the market and help NAD provide members with a package of service they need to grow in their careers and help their businesses thrive. They selected Wes in February 2024. He's a widely respected distribution executive who was the president and CEO of Mayor Electric Supply, which several years ago was purchased by Rexel. Wes served in almost every imaginable role at Mayor, and along with the dozens, if not hundreds, of industry relationships that came with the years of volunteer service he invested in NAD and IDI, Smith brings to NAD a keen sense of applying the digital tools to the distribution world. Over the past 4 years, we've heard an awful lot about the Biden administration's federal support of electric vehicle plants, battery plants, and semiconductor facilities. That support is, on the federal basis, is a little in question with the new administration. In the industrial market, dozens of these plants were partially funded by federal IRA funds or other financial stimulus that are underway in the pipeline. Changes in the White House and on Capitol Hill could impact future funding of the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, and the bipartisan inflation bill passed early in the Biden administration. This legislation pumped billions of dollars in grants, tax breaks, and other financial incentives into semiconductor plants, EV and battery factories, renewable projects, and with wind farms, photovoltaic panels, and battery storage systems. For individuals, federal legislation that provided tax incentives to consumers for the purchase of some electric vehicles and energy-efficient equipment for their homes, including water heaters and solar panels. Not all of the allocated funds for this legislation have been spent yet, and Donald Trump has said on the campaign trail that he would not allow unallocated funds to be spent on future green projects, and he has called the IRA the greatest scam in history. It's hard to know what campaign rhetoric and this legislation from President Trump will become policy, in part because so many of the industrial project funded is being built in states that voted for him. It's been said by the Evercore ISA consulting firm that about 75% of the job creation and the capital spending on new manufacturing facilities and other clean energy resources has gone to red states or red counties and blue states. And a report in Yahoo Finance said that according to the data from the Department of Energy, $10.8 billion in investments in solar energy has gone to red states, while just $4.1 billion has gone to blue states. We may finally be seeing a little bit of sunshine in the residential market as lower interest rates could mean more demand for new homes and construction loans. Any sizable increase in 2025 residential construction hinges on the decrease in mortgage rates, and the National Association of Home Builders, or NAHB, is forecasting a 2.1% increase in 2025 in single-family housing starts to just over 1 million, but a 2.2% drop in multifamily units to 331,944. We're keeping a close eye on the digital procurement tools for electrical contractors that seem to be gaining traction. Electrical contractors have more tools than ever to digitize their business operations in the areas of bidding, takeoffs, and procurement through well-known names like Trimble, McCormick Systems, Canet Software, and Certain Software. Over the past year or two, however, EW sellers are hearing more about companies that are focusing specifically on the procurement part of the equation. Based in Covina, California, Kojo, with website www.usekojo.com, seems to have a higher profile than the others in this space and is promoting its capabilities to help contractors link directly with distributors' business system. In a November 2023 press release, Kojo said it had 23 distributor suppliers in its beta place with its supplier integrations feature, along with 25 electrical contractors. Some of the distributors, it said, are now using its software, at least on a beta level, according to the company, are Porter States, Graybar, Rexel, Mayer Electric Supply, Maine Electric Supply, and other divisions of Wesco. We've all heard so much about data centers over the past couple of years, but in 2025, will we see this demand go even further to the moon? We do think data centers will continue to see big-time growth over the next few years, particularly with the power demands of artificial intelligence. A Goldman Sachs report said a query through an AI tool such as ChatGPT takes nearly 10 times as much electricity as a Google search query. We've seen so many different projects and we try to keep track of them in electrical marketing's database of large projects, and we call it large, 100 million or more. We have over 60 data centers that either hit the planning stage or broke ground in either 2023, 2024. We bet there's quite a few more than that, but these are the ones that we've been able to catalog so far. Of those 60 projects, though, $74.4 billion in total contract value. Use a rule of thumb for an electrical piece of a total contract value, construction value, at about 10%. You can see that we're talking some really dollars there. And if more than 20 of these data center projects have a total contract value of at least $1 billion. On top of all these dollars, we just heard on a December 10th announcement that Google announced that it would be co-investing $20 billion in a new generation of data centers that would be co-located in energy parks that would have their own source of renewable energy. It's going to be huge. Also, and another metric on data center growth, the U.S. Census Department now breaks that new data center construction in its monthly value of new construction data. And through October the 24th, new data center construction was running at over $29 billion. And to wrap up our new opportunities and this podcast, let's talk about some of the newer technologies that offer opportunities in 2025 and beyond. It's really hard to pinpoint an era in the electrical construction market with so many new technologies that offer future business potential. As the demand for new sources of power and the advancement of digital control technologies continue, they'll provide electrical distributors and their contractor customers with new business opportunities to differentiate themselves the next year and beyond. When we take a look at lighting control, think about all the app-based control that continues to get more intuitive to use, easier to commission, and even more sophisticated control, more complex lighting systems. There's been a lot of talk about artificial intelligence. It's also already dramatically impacting the electrical market, both as a tool to help companies operate more efficiently and as a driver for the construction of data centers. And this one's a little further down the road because none of these have actually been fully commercially available just yet, but small modular reactors, or SMRs, there's a lot of chatter about that in the energy market. And of course, as we mentioned before, because of their insatiable appetite for power, EV charging systems and other new electrical loads are asking more of the U.S. electrical grid. Some power experts are reevaluating nuclear power as a potential source. Right now, there's 93 conventional nuclear power plants already produce about 20% of the nation's electrical power. And while it may take the SMRs to provide a notable amount of electrical power for several years to do this, they're attracting a lot of attention because they'll be easy to bring online. Their modularity will make them easier to build, and because of their smaller size, data centers and other big-time power users may be able to have them right on site. Another one that we've been watching closely, and we've written a few articles on this in electrical wholesaling, is DC digital power. It's small scale right now, but gosh, when you think of it, it's a potentially game-breaking technology that we first saw in the lighting market with power over Ethernet, or PoE lighting, LED lighting systems. While these lighting loads are comparatively small, digital power is now being used for much larger projects because so much of the electrical load is serving digital devices and other systems that operate on the lower electrical systems loads like computers, security, televisions, and other electronic loads. Since digital power can be run through smaller cables such as 18/2 AWG speaker wires and Cat5 cable systems, and it is classified as a Class 2 wiring system, it can save quite a bit of installation time and material cost. Some savings estimate that POA can run as high as 30% in savings because these systems don't need to be installed in conduit. They don't need to utilize to be more expensive boxes to support systems, and obviously there's quite a bit less of copper in there. Although digital power is very certainly in its infancy, Sinclair Digital out of Fort Worth has wired 2 hotels with digital power, the Sinclair Marriott in Fort Worth and the Hotel Marcel in New Haven, Connecticut. It also wired an Officer Southwire, which actually is invested in Sinclair. According to a Southwire post, Sinclair installed POE wiring in roughly 23,000 square feet of offices, meeting rooms, and workstations in multi-purpose space in the Battery Atlanta mixed-use development adjacent to the Truist Park, the home of Major League Baseball's Atlanta Braves. The largest project that I was able to find using digital power, and this is through a different vendor, the VoltServe out of East Greenwich, Rhode Island, it wired the 777 Circa Hotel and Resort in Las Vegas. The hotel was wired with VoltServe's digital power products to power advanced building automation, digital in-room controls, LED lighting, and the electrical power distribution system for those lower level loads like we're talking about, computers, televisions, lighting, and security. While it's very early days for digital power, think about the impact it could have as an alternative to conventional wiring methods. So many of today's electrical loads, including lighting, television, computers, printers, and security systems, could run on DC digital power. Well, this wraps up our podcast today. I realized it's a little bit long, but I thought this would be a great time to kind of do a year-end wrap-up and to give a special thanks to the folks from Champion Fiberglass for sponsoring today's Electrical Economy series for 4 years and over 100 episodes. If you need any background information on any of the market opportunities or news stories that we discussed here, or some of the economic data discussed, give me a shout at 913-461-7679 or by email at jlucy@endeavorb2b.com. And mostly I just want to thank you for being a listener. This podcast has just grown wonderfully over the past couple of years. I really look forward to doing it recording this a couple of times a month. I look forward to another good year coming up. So enjoy the holiday season. Hope you have a chance to spend some time with family and friends. Stay healthy and happy. Our next presentation will be on January 6th, after the New Year. Hard to believe we're already talking about after the New Year, and that would be January 6th, 2025. So anyways, thanks again for your viewership, listenership, and we'll be talking with you in a couple of weeks.